Hi, and we're back, everybody. Number four. Okay, so yes, video number four. Video number four. I hope we're all having a great day. And I'm talking about ultra processed food addiction and it being real. So remember in the last video, I was like, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. No. How I showed the little brain diagram and all the little sensors going off. Well, it's not like that changed. That's true, right? So I really want to deep dive in this video about how ultra processed foods are different. Like there's different processes of foods. There's ultra processed, and there's like other processed. So we're going to talk about it. And I really think that we eat way more processed food than we realize. Yeah, I was like, "What? That's processed? Oh, that's processed. Oh, that's processed. That's so many foods are processed." So, yes, I want to read you the definition of the Bliss point. And again, this is about ultra processed foods. Like, when you first think of the term, it's easy to just think like, "Oh, that means it was like, really manufactured and run through a lot of machines." Sure. But not my point. Not my point. Not mad at the Industrial Revolution. I'm talking about engineered cravings. I'm going to say it again. Engineered cravings. There are scientists in labs across the country, across the globe, that these big manufacturing food companies pay to come up with a chemical compound that the minute you eat their food, you're like, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. No. Okay. So those engineered cravings, they really mess with us emotional eaters, right? And there's a difference between being an emotionally hungry, which means you're not really hungry, and real hunger. And I definitely suffer from that because I love to eat my feelings. Do you? Do you love to eat your feelings? Because I know I love to eat my feelings. If I'm sad or unhappy or something devastating has happened, I worked really hard to change that. And I still give myself grace if like I'm having a really bad time. But, as far as a truth goes for the day, in my 20s and 30s, when I had a really bad time in my life, I couldn't afford things, or I was trying to pay bills, or whatever the case was, I would buy, or I was heartbroken, whatever it was, I would go and buy like a bag of Reese cups at the CVS or the grocery store, and a bag of Kit Kats or little Hershey bars. And in one night, that was like over 20 something ounces of chocolate. And that's like over almost 3 cups of chocolate. 3 cups of chocolate. That's a lot. That's a lot on your body. And, there's also, if you Google it, there's a bunch of drugs in chocolate. So it says it right there on the internet. And it makes you feel good. Yeah. So they call it a bliss point. Engineering is no accident. It's deliberate, strategic, and finely tuned to override hunger signals and keep consumption high. So that's their goal. Not only do they want you to like their food, they want you to continue to eat it. They don't care if it's not good for you. They don't care. And they'll come up with every scientist in the book, every study in the book to try to make sure that the blame is placed on you, right? Because you're eating it. But they want their profits to stay up. So they're engineering the food for you to not only eat it, but be obsessed with it and eat it all the time. What's that once you pop, you can't stop, right? They know that. They made it that way. They don't want you to stop. They want you to buy all of the Pringles or all of the potato chips or all of the candy bars. Okay, so there's 4 different kinds of process levels. I'm going to read them to you now with this amazing stock footage in the background. Oh, look, she looks so happy. She's like, yeah, French fry. So that's ultra processed food. Examples are commercially produced breads. I know, what? Most breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, hot dogs, frozen meals, potato chips, soft drinks, and candy bars. Like, I knew about the candy bars and the soft drinks and the chips and the frozen meals and maybe even the hot dogs. Flavored yogurts? Flavored yogurts are doing this to my brain. I want to be happy. I thought I'd be happy. I thought this is like an Activia snippet right here, right? Like the Activia. You're saying my flavored yogurt is ultra processed? What? Activia? What? No, I don't know if it's Activia. But I do know that it's on my research that an ultra processed food example is flavored yogurt. And commercially produced breads, which means if you're not getting the bread from some like local baker, which we are very fortunate here in LA to have options like that. I know a lot of other places we don't have options like that. Like LA is very blessed. I mean, you need the money to pay for it, which is the really tough part, but we're really blessed here in LA because if you want something that's organic or pure or made from scratch or whatever, it is available for a price. But that's not the case. I mean, that's the other issue. It's like a lot of this really ultra processed food is in, places where they don't have a lot of vegetables and fruits that are easily accessible. It's like, why are we focused on sending this ultra processed food and having that be in the stores? Because the businesses are paying to make sure it's in the stores. And as we spoke about before, no one is making a commercial for an orange or a pepper or an apple. And yet those are the foods that need to be available in places where they don't readily have all that stuff available like they do here in LA. And so I was really shocked when I saw commercially produced breads, most breakfast cereals, and flavored yogurts. The other stuff I knew about, like, your hot dogs and your hamburgers and all the food from the fast food places and all the foods at like the food festivals and, Disneyland. Like Disneyland's the happiest place on earth, but it's also the most unhealthiest place on earth. So they want you to be really happy, but really unhealthy. Think about it. Okay, so besides an apple, which is like the far end of the spectrum, or like a Brussels sprout, and then the other far end of the spectrum, which is ultra processed foods, like the breads and the breakfast cereals and the flavored yogurts got me. It got me because I'm like, I'm eating healthy. I'm eating a flavored yogurt. No, you're eating ultra processed yogurt. Okay. So then there's just like processed food. So they're not ultra, but they are processed. What does that mean? I think it means that it's a food that you can eat sometimes, like the ultra processed foods you probably should never eat. Let's be honest. It's ultra processed for a reason. They've engineered bliss points. It's made so your body will be addicted to it. So yes, you can eat ultra processed foods, but if all you're eating is ultra processed foods, that's really where a lot of the health concerns come in. And even if you're only eating ultra processed foods half the time, it's still very detrimental and very bad for you. Okay. So processed culinary ingredients are just foods that have been manufactured in that way, right? So like sugar, honey, maple syrup, vegetable oils, butter, and vinegar. Number one, I will always say butter is better than margarine. Yes, margarine has less calories. Yes, they've taken a lot of all the trans fats out, but it's still chemicals. Okay, putting chemicals in your body. I'm not crunchy yet. Maybe I'll be a crunchy older lady, but all the chemicals. Again, these are just drugs. They're engineered bliss points to make you be addicted to the food they're selling. I don't want that for your life. I don't want that for your life. Okay. And so things like processed culinary ingredients: sugar, honey, maple syrup, vegetable oils, butter, vinegar. It's just stuff that's been processed to be stuff that we added to our daily food. And I think it's okay to use, but it's about moderation. Things that are processed, regularly processed foods, examples are salted nuts, cured meats, canned fish, canned vegetables, most cheeses, and freshly made bread, such as from a local bakery. Wow. And so it's like, even if you just get bread from a local bakery like you do here in LA, it's still processed. It's not ultra processed like the bread you buy at the grocery store, but it's processed. And I don't have anything against there's some really good for you cured meats and canned fish, but it's still like high in sodium, really high in sodium. So it shouldn't be like your everyday meal. It should be like a special occasion, something that we're doing fun. or something like for convenience. But like, for instance, I would think, right, if I didn't know any of this information, that if I got a loaf of bread from a bakery, that is really good for you because they made it with fresh ingredients and it was done right in front of me and they sell it right here on the corner. Like, this has to be legit. And it's still processed, so it's still not the best for you. And a little sidebar, because I have done so much homework, sourdough, if you're eating bread, sourdough is the best bread to eat. It has no sugar and it's fermented, and things that are fermented are much better for your gut microbacteria down below in your tum-tum, or below your tum-tum in your intestines. And so bread, because I love bread, but the only bread I eat is sourdough. The problem is, whenever I want like a big sub, if they don't offer sourdough as an option, I wind up eating ultra processed white bread. And, I know how bad that is for me now. And now you know how bad it is for you too. Unprocessed or minimally processed foods are things like fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, eggs, meat, poultry, and plain yogurt and plain coffee. plain, and even pasta, but pasta that's plain and done right. And the problem is it's very difficult for us to figure out what's minimally processed, what's processed, what's ultra processed, because the companies that make the ultra processed food, they're making all the food and they're really trying to get you to not notice and not pay attention and not know the difference, because this is homework. Like, I've done a lot of homework on this, and you do need to have the knowledge so that you know what you are getting into. And it's not like I want you to learn this or myself to learn this so that you never have things that are ultra processed again, but just to know that they are, and to know that eating them consistently all the time every day is very bad for you, and to know what those ultra processed things are. And so if you are confused, I'm sure you can get a whole list off the ChatGPT or the Google or whatever. But, like, a big realization for me besides the bread was boar's head. Like, boar's head deli meat is so delicious and I'm so addicted, and I've eaten for so long. Like, I want to say I've been eating boar's head as long as I've been a Clinique line buyer. So yeah, the early 90s. And whether I like it or not, there's nitrates and there's stuff in deli meat. And boar's head, I firmly believe, is the best deli meat. Number one. But that doesn't change the fact that it is processed, and hopefully only processed and not ultra processed. So if you are out there and you do work for boar's head, please let me know. Like, I just want your food to just be regularly processed and not ultra processed, because I do love it so much. And there is a big difference. And we are the boss of our own life. So we have to make those decisions. And that's, I guess, what I want for you is, like, I know this, I know this feeling. Especially McDonald's does like free fry Fridays. You just buy like $1, $2 thing. And look, these people, they are getting paid. They are getting paid to figure out how to get you addicted. Okay? They're getting paid. And that's not right. Like, they're just like, okay, how do we make this human brain light up like a Christmas tree? And you're just like, what? I thought I was having a happy Activia life. But then I found out all of my bread is ultra processed and killing me. Like, no. So the takeaways for today are, and you want to think about, this is stuff to think about. The first series is just to think about it. We're going to go into actions in the next series. Okay. Which foods do you eat that are ultra processed? Do you know? Because that goes into the second question. Which foods are in what level of processing? Are you eating ultra processed foods? Are you eating processed foods? Are you eating unprocessed foods? Which of those three levels do your foods fall into, right? Unprocessed or minimally processed foods are fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, eggs, meat, poultry, pasta, plain yogurt, and coffee. Processed culinary ingredients, that includes sugar, honey, maple syrup, vegetable oils, butter, and vinegar. Processed foods are salted nuts, cured meat, canned fish, canned veggies, most cheeses, and freshly made bread, like from a local bakery. And then ultra processed foods are commercially produced breads, most breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, hot dogs, frozen meals, potato chips, soft drinks, and candy bars, and all of the takeout. So yeah, don't get me wrong. There are a few restaurants here in LA, big fans that do really fresh ingredients, and I love that so much. But that's not the majority. The majority of all takeout food is ultra processed because it's a restaurant and they got to keep it moving, and they also want their food to have a long shelf life. So just a really quick, how long have I gone? 15 minutes. Just a really quick backstory on ultra processed foods because I feel like this information is most pertinent for this video. And I want to share my homework. So back during World War II, which is when I feel like ultra processed foods first came to like the big lights, you know, we were at war and we needed food to stay stable for longer, right? Because regular, healthy, good for you food is perishable. And so I think hydrogen is what the guy figured out. He could add into all these vegetables and foods to keep them sustained for a long time on the shelf. So we could send them over to the people fighting the war. Now, that probably was a very ingenious, wonderful idea, but then it's almost like best intentions, right? That now the war's over and, you know, they want to continue to make this food so that everybody can have access to it so it has a longer shelf life, not really realizing that the chemicals that they're adding to it are hurting the insides of our body. So I think that's my like huge point to you is that I just want you to realize that like, you know, it's not specifically about you. It's about money and society and how these companies are basically just figuring out a way to profit off of your weaknesses, which I find very offensive, And I don't want you to be weak. I want you to be strong, right? So we're going to be strong together. And I want you to think about, again, just like look at these takeaways real quick. Which foods do you eat that are ultra processed? Because you might not even know. Like, do you even know? Like, think about it. Like, think about what it is that you eat. Like, the last video is about your grocery store and your grocery shopping. Like, even think about it. Like, the more you're not in control, the more you're not the person going to the grocery store, the more you're not the person buying the food, the more you don't have control over what is going inside of you. Now, you know, I think that's a really big deal if you are trying to lose weight, if you are trying to be healthy, because the more control you have over what you get to decide goes into your body, the more I feel like you will feel like you have control over what's happening to you, right? And so think about the foods you eat. I'm not asking you to do anything except to think about things. Maybe write it down. We're going to definitely do a writing down video in this first series. Because you got to write stuff down. You won't know until you write it down because you forget. You forget. If you forget who you got plans with next week, you're going to forget. We all forget. I totally understand. And when you forget, then it's like, oh, it never happened. That's not a real thing to every human on the planet. Just because you forgot about it doesn't mean it didn't happen. So with that said, I appreciate your time today. Add a comment below. Let's start a debate. But also just remember that like you're amazing and perfect and awesome and I want you to be healthy. So I'm sharing this information with you because I think it's important. I think it's valuable and I think we deserve better. All right. I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye.